welcome back to the TrueCast, everyone. Another day, another story, right? And today, we got Jeff the Killer again. Yeah, I'm gonna be honest, but look, hear me out before you click off the video. Today I'm reading the 2015 remake. And here's why. First of all, the past video, the original Jeff the Killer, that video did very well. And the story was very funny, which I'm not expecting this one to be. I'm expecting this one to actually be scary. So yeah, first of all, I had fun making that video. It was very popular. And second of all, I did mention it, that there was the remake back in that video. And, I did want to bring the remake eventually. And I thought, okay, you know what? Since the last video did so well, why don't I just bring you the remake now? Why don't we just see, how... And this is hypothetical, but I'm assuming this is a good Jeff the Killer story. Why don't we see what a good Jeff the Killer story sounds like? What it feels like, how it's supposed to be written. Why don't we do that? And considering it was literally the last video, you're gonna have, a much better way of comparing them. So, without further ado, I'm gonna go straight to the point. This is Jeff the Killer 2015. And I'm gonna give you a small author's note, because that is on top of the creepypasta wiki page. Credit for the characters of Jeff the Killer, Leo, Keith, Troy, and Randy, go to the original author of Jeff the Killer. This is my version of a Jeff the Killer remake. It was selected through a community challenge by votes to become the new Jeff the Killer story, to be featured on this site, the creepypasta wiki. The pasta that came second in the voting can be found, well, here, there's a link, and was written by Serious Nightshade, and we might read that eventually as well. Not soon, because I don't want to become the Jeff the Killer channel, okay? So, maybe later on in the future, I'll just make this second Jeff the Killer episode, the third one probably much further away. And the third place entry was written by Jay Zoidberg, and can be found here, link. This is not the original story, but rather a retelling. But you guys already know that, because we read the original one last episode. Now, we even have a cool sort of book cover thing on the creepypasta wiki page. Jeff the Killer 2015 by K. Banning Kellum. And that's the author of this remake. And the cool thing is this story is also organized in chapters, so I'm also expecting it to be longer. And I will read the name of the chapter, obviously, as well, because I want to read everything for you. Right, so here's how the story starts. Mandeville. The day Jeffrey Woods and his family arrived at their new home, the sky was overcast and the weather was muggy. The grey seemed to punctuate his mood. He was not thrilled to be here. The new home was beautiful, though. A true example of his father's newfound success. But still, it wasn't the home he'd known. A week after they'd settled in, Jeff and Leo woke up early. The sky was a crisp and gorgeous blue, and although the Louisiana heat was playing its usual cruel tricks, the brothers decided that a morning bike ride to explore the area would be just the right ticket to combat the slight pangs of homesickness that they'd both been experiencing over the last week. "I miss home," Leo blurted out, as Jeff was meeting salsa on the microwaved burrito that would serve as his breakfast. "Me too, Leo, but I guess this is home now. We just sort of have to make the most out of it." "I know, but all of our friends and stuff are back in New Orleans. Remember that building we'd always sneak up on top of and watch the city lights come on? I miss that," Leo responded, sounding down. "Yeah, and ZM Video. The owner knew us and would always let us rent R-rated movies without our parents there, and he'd always hook us up with a free video game rental if we got a few movies. Yeah, I miss that too. But Leo, we have to..." Leo interrupted. "I know, we have to make the most out of this. This place just seems so fake, and Mom and Dad still treat us like we aren't even here." "Yep, they do. I was sort of hoping the new house would improve their mood, but what can we do?" Leo had no answer. Jeff finished his breakfast, and the two boys left the house to mount their bikes and explore a bit more. As it turned out, the subdivision they moved into was rather close to a cluster of stores in a small shopping center. Village Shopping Center was the name of the short row of businesses. Within these were a Pizza Hut, a Chinese restaurant, a tobacco store, a Sprint store, and what Jeff and Leo were most excited about, a video store. We'll have to get Mom or Dad to come down here and open up an account so we can rent movies, Leo mentioned, as Jeff flipped a box over to read the description of a horror movie. Shit, you're right, Jeff snapped, feeling a bit of frustration at this thought. He knew getting his parents to actually come down here and set up a membership would take forever, since the usual after-work routine was to go off into separate rooms until they got angry enough and to come out and speak. Jeff glanced over at the girl working behind the counter. Maybe I can go over there and sweet talk her into giving us accounts, he joked. Yeah, right, Jeff. Well, look at you and she probably ban us, Leo remarked back, a smile broad on his face. You doubt me, little man? Doubt you? The guy who's kissed two girls and almost touched a boob? Never. Please go over and lay on all the charm. Whatever, I totally could have banged that girl, but the parents came home and tend to get the impression that I started to get the impression that these guys are older here, so maybe I will give Leo an older sounding voice. I'm assuming Leo is like, I don't know, at least 13, so at least 1 year older, and Jeff's gotta be even older, I don't know, so I will give them a more adult voice from now on. Last time you told me that story, you said their parents were out of town and their sister came home. Jeff became flustered, and while in the process of trying to make yet another comeback, the girl behind the register removed all doubt by speaking to the boys herself. Hey, aren't those your bikes? The young woman asked, pointing towards the glass window. Also, I'm sorry guys, I cannot make a woman's voice to save my life. I'm really sorry. So, I'm just gonna try to make women's voices funny. That's not because I hate women or whatever. I just cannot make a woman's voice for the life of me. Or maybe I just won't give them any special voice. I don't know. Okay, new chapter. Randy, Keith and Troy. Jeff and Leo looked over and saw three boys outside, two of which were riding around in circles on the Woods brothers' bikes. Yeah, it's a last name. They're Jeffrey Wood and Leo Wood. I forgot. They will spin them around and then jump off, letting the bikes crash onto the pavement, just to stand them up and ride them again. The two boys riding the bikes were both slim in build. A heavier boy was stood on the sidewalk, drinking a Red Bull and watching. Jeff and his brother made their way towards the doors of the video store. The fat kid saw them coming. Jeff couldn't hear what he said to his two friends, but he made some sort of gesture while shouting. The other two boys dumped the bikes where they lay and walked towards the sidewalk, directly towards the two brothers. Those your bikes? One of the boys asked as Jeff and Leo entered the summer heat. Yeah, why are you riding them? Leo asked sharply. We just threw them there, man, relax. I figured someone just left them out for us. The same boy responded as his two friends joined him on the other side. Jeff, determined to make a good start here, tried to change the course of this confrontation. Well, they're ours. We just moved here about a week ago. We live over on Fairmont Avenue, a few blocks from here. We were just checking out the neighborhood. Jeff hoped that a civil tone could turn things around, but he could tell by the insolent look on the kid's face that it was a difficult gamble. Good for you, you moved somewhere, the fat kid remarked. Oh yeah, Troy, the first boy spoke. They moved into the piece of shit house with the gravel driveway. I was wondering who'd buy that place. Well, Randy, now we know, the big kid, apparently named Troy, replied. Jeff, still trying to salvage the conversation, tried peaceful banter one more time. Okay, so you're Troy and you're Randy. Well, I'm Jeff, and this is my brother Leo. Just moved here from New Orleans. Are you ain't in New Orleans now? The third boy, who just now decided to speak, remarked. Yeah, and who the fuck said you could call us by our names? Randy asked, that insolent privileged smile never leaving his face. Jeff smiled and responded to Randy. Well, I guess I could have called you a fucking asshole, but I figured I would give you the benefit of the doubt. In that moment, a flare of rage replaced the smirk that had rested on Randy's face throughout his entire exchange. The two other boys, throwing the third member of this band, seemed to be momentarily struck silent. Perhaps they weren't used to being stood up to. "Oh, I'm sorry. Was the language too adult for you?" Jeff asked. "And you, quiet boy. We know this isn't New Orleans," Jeff stated to the slim kid that had reminded him of his geographical location. "Because if this was New Orleans, you three would have already gotten your asses kicked for touching someone else's shit." The slim kid looked back and forth at his two friends. However, Randy, clearly the leader, seemed to know what to say. "Keith, you gonna let this little bitch talk to you like that?" This story is already a lot more vulgar than the previous one. I was not expecting this. Now YouTube is gonna be like, "Oh, you said swear word before the 12-minute mark. I'm gonna not recommend this video to anyone." That's what YouTube is gonna do now. Well, let's keep going anyway. Jeff knew this part. Though he wanted quite badly to sock Randy and his pals around, a real concern suddenly invaded his mind. If he and Leo got into a fight on the first week in this new neighborhood, the parents would freak. He could practically hear it now. And while things had been far from perfect in their home, even after the move, there was a peace that had fallen over the family. Jeff, fighting his urges, decided to do his best to keep it. He looked over the three, all very well dressed, very privileged looking suburban kids, and dismissed them. "You guys are boring. Come on, Leo, let them continue their playdates without us." Leo laughed at that and followed behind his brother towards the bikes. However, Randy and his little gang of would-be toughs would have none of that. They moved to block Jeff and his brother once again. "Where you going, pussy?" What's the language? Randy asked, showing Jeff. Jeff could feel that the show had no real conviction. Randy was trying to figure him out, seeing where his buttons were. He'd push harder eventually, but Jeff swallowed the slowly building anger within him once more. Sorry guys. Leo took a bit more exception to the show. "We're going to your mom's house. Me and my brother saved up a couple dollars from doing chores, and we hear she doesn't charge much." Wow. I'm laughing, but at least this is actually funny and not ridiculous. As the words left Leo's mouth, Randy appeared to only register a small portion of it all. Randy Hayden had grown up in Mandeville, sorry guys. His father was a partner at a local firm that made a lot of money, something else that Jeff would soon come to learn. Randy and his friends, well, the same age as Jeff, had grown up in a very different circumstance. They were used to being listened to. They were used to being feared. In fact, Randy, the target of the insult, just stood there. It was actually Troy, the fat kid, who stepped forward, fist balled, eyes squinted in anger. "Who you talking to?" Troy shouted, and took a wild swing at Leo. Leo, who was both in better shape and had sparred with Jeff a time or two during his time spent boxing, that's nice, it's interesting, was able to avoid the punch, but just barely. Had that been all, he may have once again ended there. Troy was clearly taken by surprise at Leo's speed, and didn't actually attempt another punch. However, these were bullies. Kids that ran in a pack for a reason. The skinny one, Keith, stepped around and threw a punch that connected with the left side of Leo's face. Jeff had seen enough. He'd been shocked at how quickly this evolved into blows, even though he'd expected it from almost the start. When he'd first met Randy and his friends, he'd been curious. From there, he developed an annoyance with them, and slowly, that annoyance had evolved into anger. However, upon seeing Leo punched, seeing the small trickle of blood form on his brother's lower lip, the smug look of satisfaction on Keith's face, that anger that Jeff felt suddenly exploded into a rage that he never felt before in his life. See, now this is a much better way of talking about the feeling he felt. It's a much better way. Also, it's not just randomly feeling it from the, you know, in the past, in the previous story, at the beginning he already just randomly feels the feeling like that. Now we're talking about rage or being more, you know, it's better. But I'm gonna keep reading the story before I make, you know, further judgments, so that I can make better judgments. Jeffrey Woods did not hesitate. He stepped forward, his feet automatically falling into the correct stance that he learned from the boxing classes his father once enrolled him into, and delivered a powerful right hand to Keith's face. The skinny boy had no time to register shock or pain. The punch caught him by surprise, and his knees buckled. Keith went down to the ground in a heap of confusion and dawning fear. Randy, the so-called leader, was almost too shocked to move. He'd had quite a lot of experience starting fights, but no real time logged to losing them. He never felt control of a situation slip. He was used to being in charge, so now, seeing one of his friends go down so quickly and easily left him in a state of shock that he had no idea how to address. Troy, on the other hand, seemed to have a plan. Throw another punch. He moved towards Jeff deceptively faster than his weight would seem to allow, and threw two equally fast punches. Jeff, however, had no problem sidestepping both attempts. Troy, seeming lost for words, dropped his arms, as if to say, "Gee, what do I do now?" Jeff had the answer. He moved in, throwing 3 hooks to Troy's stomach. The hefty kid's eyes went as wide as pie pads. A fitting analogy, Jeff thought. He staggered back, clutching his throbbing stomach. Jeff wasted no time and stepped in once more, connecting a sharp punch to the big kid's jaw, causing Troy to promptly fall on his ass. Jeff was reminded of King Hippo from the Punch-Out game he used to play. He couldn't help but smile. See, that's nice, that's cool. Now you're throwing a reference to Punch-Out. I'm assuming, did he say the Wii one? I don't know, but well, you're throwing references to games. That's cool, that's nice. This also gives us more background into Jeff. Now we know, you know, he plays games. Well, it's not necessarily like a nerd or gamer, but you know, we have some extra information about some things he likes. That's nice. Jeff now turned his focus on Randy. He advanced on the boy, feeling something new forming inside of him. He still felt the anger, the rage. Actually, at the antics of these 3 assholes. What? He still felt the anger, the rage? Actually, okay, some things I will say they're written a bit weird. It just seems like the commas are positioned in weird, you know, places. Sometimes they're missing. So, you know, some phrases I have to reread multiple times. Literally, I record, delete that part, and re-record, because some commas are weird. So, going forward, you know, you've been advised, if I sound weird, some commas feel a bit weird to read. Let's keep going. They had the nerve to mess with their bikes, the nerve to insult 2 kids they'd never met before, and of course, the ultimate offense, touching his brother. However, mixed in with his rage was also a sweet, enjoyable pleasure. Not only was he kicking their asses, but he was loving every second of it. It was as though the joy of showing them up was perfectly blending with the rage he felt towards them. Together, it formed into a sadistic, controlled sense of power. That was until Leo stepped in front of him. "Jeff, stop, that's enough." "Why stop now, Leo? They wanted this," Jeff replied in a flat voice that Leo had never heard come from his brother's mouth. "She's calling the cops, look!" Leo shouted again. This time, Jeff came back to reality long enough to listen. He glanced over at the video store clerk and saw her on the phone, talking frantically and pointing towards the parking lot. Suddenly, Jeff's strange sadistic haze collapsed, and he regained his former self. "Fuck, let's go!" he stated quickly. he and Liu mounted their bikes and rode towards the parking lot exit. Yeah, you better fucking run, Randy called out behind them. Oh my god, I swear, I do not understand bullies sometimes. You know, they'll be like this, they'll fucking lose so badly, and they still find the courage to retort this way. This is not, by the way, a criticism on the writing. This is how the stereotypical insecure bully acts, to be fair. And a lot of bullies are very insecure. That's usually where it comes from a place of insecurity. So, you know, I'm just saying, I found it funny. Enraging as well. I hate that bullies are like that. But it is a good portrayal still. Yeah, it's good. Jeff and Liu paid no mind and pedaled away. Of course they did. A few blocks down the street, they dismounted their bikes and began to walk them together. At first, neither brother spoke. Then Liu broke the silence. Jeff, thank you for standing up for me back there. Yeah, those guys were pieces of shit. They had it coming, Jeff replied, looking down at the street as they walked. What happened? I've never seen you like that before. Just defending myself, Liu. What was I supposed to do? Let them beat you up? I bet they go to our school. I bet we'll see them there and they won't forget this. Who cares? We didn't ask them to move here. Oh, we didn't, sorry. We didn't ask to move here, as in ourselves. We didn't ask for any of this. Mom and Dad just wanted a bigger house in a nicer neighborhood, and we were along for the ride whether we liked it or not. Think I give a shit what these rich assholes kids think of us? Jeff stated and went back to looking at his feet. Will we get in trouble? Liu asked. For what? Defending ourselves? Yeah, I guess you're right. They did start it, Liu answered. To the brothers, the matter was closed. However, things were far from over. And we're on to the next chapter. What do you guys think? It's pretty good until now, right? Of course, the previous one was very badly written, so it was funny. And I feel like, you know, I was laughing a lot, so I was enjoying that more. But that's literally because it was a bad story. This one, on the other hand, I'm enjoying the slow build. It's building slower, but I think, you know, it's slowly getting interesting. We got, you know, more background into Jeff and Liu. We got to see Liu speak more as well. So this also gives us more of a feeling of what Liu's personality is like, which you don't really get with the previous story, you know? So all in all, I think it's going well. It's going well. I mean, at least until now, at least until this bit, you can see, you know, that it kind of deserves winning the first place in that competition. But it is still early to say, to be fair. We'll have to see how it keeps going. My only criticism until now is just the commas. You know, especially later on in these chapters, the author started putting a lot more commas, which is good because then it's a bit easier to read. Felt a bit slower, but that was okay. But it was easier to read at least. But especially at the beginning, it feels like there's too few commas, you know, like too much of it is left to you to interpret how to read. And that's fine if I read it before and if I remember it after, I guess. But if it's the first time reading it, you know, and I'm reading it like this to you guys, makes it a bit harder to read. Now, yeah, sure, I could read it beforehand, but I feel like that might make for a better reading, because then I have a better idea of how to read it to you. But it would kinda ruin the reaction element, you know? But anyway, let's just keep going. Corruption in action. They found that the trouble they believed they'd escaped was in fact waiting for them at their front door. Jeff and Leo saw the police cars well before they arrived at their driveway. Two cop cars, both parked in the front of their house. The boys felt their stomachs drop. They well knew why the police were there. The brothers entered the living room to find the parents sitting on the couch, the two cops standing, leaning on the wall, writing in their notebooks. "What did you two do?" "Sheila." "What? No, it's not Sheila, it's Sheila." "Okay, that's a weird name. Sheila unless it's a typo, I don't know." Sheila practically screeched as the two boys entered the house. Leo, younger and less centered than Jeff, began to go on the defensive. "Some kids tried to jump us down by the video store. They were messing with our bikes, and when we went outside, they got in our faces." "That's not the way we heard it," Matt Woods interjected, his voice firm and ripe with anger and dissatisfaction. "No, Dad, that's what happened," Jeff began to explain. We were down at Friendly Video, looking around the store, when these three kids started riding around on our bikes, and all we did was walk outside, and the kids started talking trash to us, trying to provoke a fight. When we tried to leave, one of them punched Leo." Finally, one of the two cops spoke. His name tag read Williamson. "Boys, we have some serious complaints about the two of you. From what eyewitnesses at the shopping center say, you two started a confrontation with Randy and his friends." Jeff took notice at how familiar the cop's tone was when he said Randy's name. This was a small town after all, and there was a good chance that this cop coached Randy in Little League, or drank beers with his dad. Hell, it was even possible that this cop would be an uncle to one of the bullies. Okay, but how will Jeff know? I don't know, I'm assuming, I don't know, the way the text is telling me this, it feels like it's implying Jeff knows this. Jeff doesn't really know Randy at all. You know, even the thing they were saying before, oh, Randy, father, whatever, all that. But I felt like that, you know, obviously was a small out of the story kind of thing, a narration thing. I don't know. No, sir, Jeff replied. "We didn't start it, they did. We just wanted our bikes and to leave. They blocked us." Williamson continued, as though he'd heard nothing Jeff said. "Several witnesses, including the video store clerk, said that you swung first. They say that the boys were riding your bikes, but let me ask you this. Did you chain them to anything? Or did you just leave them outside the store?" "Why does that matter?" Leo demanded. "Well, son, if you left your bikes lying around the street, you can't exactly blame Randy and his friends for riding them now, can you?" "What?" "It would be different had you secured them somehow, but you just left them there." The fuck is this cop saying? This guy's corrupt. "Mom, Dad, you're not buying this crap, are you? You know me and Leo don't start fights. When have we ever? These three punks messed with us, and if you can't tell these cops that these cops are taking their sides, then you need to open your eyes." Jeff knew he was skating on thin ice, but that rage, it demanded some sort of satisfaction. "Jeffrey, do not speak about these officers in that tone of voice, and do not speak to us that way either. It's pretty obvious that you two aren't happy here, that you miss your old home, but starting fights in the street isn't going to change anything." Jeff's mother snapped back. "Listen, boys, you're lucky. None of the parents want to press charges. This will be reported as a simple scuffle between teenagers, but be advised, you're both on notice. This is a quiet town, not like New Orleans. We don't tolerate this sort of behavior over here. If you see Randy, Keith, or Troy, I highly suggest you tell them you're sorry. We'll be keeping an eye on both of you. So don't let this happen again. You don't want to have an arrest record, do you?" This sounds so unfair. Jeff felt his anger bubble over, and he could not hold his tongue. "Who is it to you, Officer Williamson? Is Randy your nephew? Is he a friend's son? Or maybe you go over and skew his mom while you're on duty? Which one is it, officer?" Oh my god, I will never say that to an officer like that. "That's it, both of you go to your rooms." Matt Woods apparently found that he wasn't a mute after all as he ordered his sons out. Jeff and Leo walked up the stairs. However, they refused to hang their heads in shame or feel any regret. Neither of their parents spoke to them for the rest of the day. Jeff and Leo stayed upstairs, venting their shared frustration to each other. They'd been screwed over. Even at their young ages, they knew that. They took some solace in the fact that they at least hadn't been arrested or cited, but still, they saw what was really going on here. That cop, he was protecting Randy, Jeff whispered to his younger brother. No shit, his brother replied. We have to watch ourselves and take care of each other. You saw it down there. Even our parents didn't stand up for us. Yeah, what the hell was up with that? Leo asked. Their fucking image, that's what's up with it. All they care about is fitting in here. They want to make sure they blend in with the rest of the Stepford families. No more fighting. If we see Randy or his two fuckhead friends again, we just walk away, okay? But Jeff, you can kick the shit out of them. Why would we walk away? Leo asked. Because I can't kick the shit out of the cops, Leo. I can't kick the shit out of mom and dad. And that's what will get us. Fucking Randy and his pals are protected here. You and me were not. So if we see them, we just avoid them, okay? Please? Leo nodded. I feel like a little bitch though. I owe Keith for hitting me. No you don't. I paid him back for that. And his fat friend too. I hope they just leave us alone now, Jeff sighed. Okay, I don't know. I wasn't expecting Leo to say that, but I mean, Leo is like 12 anyway, right? 12, 13, so yeah, he will speak like that, to be fair. Absent compassion. Jeff and Leo didn't hear from their parents for the rest of that day. They remained in their rooms late into the night, finally coming down to eat after they were sure their folks had gone to bed. Leo said that he felt relieved about that, but Jeff had a sinking feeling that the worst was yet to come. He was correct. The next morning, when the two brothers came downstairs together to eat breakfast, their parents were already sitting at the dining room table, staring at the boys, approving of nothing they saw. Sit down, Matt stated flatly. Oh, okay, sorry. So then it would be like, sit down, Matt stated flatly. What's going on? Leo asked. Sit down, Matt stated again, anger dancing on his words. The boys complied without further question. Matt Woods began his diatribe. Whatever that was yesterday, beating up some kids for touching your bikes, mouthing off at the police, disrespecting both me and your mother, that stops today. We didn't beat anyone up for touching our bikes. False? What are you saying? You literally did. However, you know, the way I see it, okay, not beating them up, but like, what? Were they supposed to let the kids touch their bikes like that? I'm not really sure what I would have done in this situation, to be honest. I think I would have tried to avoid conflict, but it's not cool if they steal my bike or whatever, you know? Shut up, Jeff. This is a one-way conversation, his father barked. That kid, Randy Hayden? His father is a partner at my firm. Did you know that? Did you even think about that when you were assaulting him over your godforsaken bike? No, how would you know? You just didn't think, did you, Jeff? Sheila. Oh, okay, so her name really is Sheila. Okay. How could I have known that? Matt continued. Well, I've spent the entire morning talking to his father on the phone. His dad is willing to let it all go, but shit, son. I have to deal with that at work now. Do you have any idea how much damage this could have done to me, to our family? Jeff felt that rage coming back, and fought with all his might to keep it stifled, sorry guys. Instead, he once more tried to appeal to the two adults' parental side. Mom, look at Leo's face. They split his lip, can't you see? It's still swollen. Leo turned his head to better showcase the injury. My god, Jeff, so some kid played a little rough with your brother. Is that any reason to fight them? I wanted to make friends with some other families in this neighborhood, but thanks to you, I just don't know. My god, what shitty parents. They were pretty bad in the original story as well, but this portrays them even worse, I think. No sooner could Jeff or his brother construct a proper defense than their father began speaking again. Your mother and I have talked this through. Since there are only a couple weeks of summer vacation left, we decided that Leo should spend the rest of the season at Aunt Marcy's place. We've already spoken to her, and she's willing to let him come out there and stay. Both Jeff and Leo were floored by this decision. Me too. They began to protest at the same time, but then saw the look on their parents' face. The decision was made. Why can't we both just go then? Jeff asked, unless ditch effort to at least get away from his parents. Marcy doesn't want both of you there. She says you two are too rambunctious, and frankly we agree, Sheila answered. And so it was. Leo was shuttled off to his aunt's place in Abita Springs, Louisiana, somewhere even smaller and duller than Mandeville, if one can believe that. Jeff watched his brother leave, then walked back to his bedroom. He felt that rage. However, it began to feel almost pleasant to him. He couldn't explain it. He was furious at these turn events. His parents had turned their backs on their own children. However, through it all, these new feelings he was experiencing weren't all that terrible. This anger, for example, he could almost taste it. It felt like thick, sweet syrup stirring around in him. Of course, he knew the extra ingredients that would complete the flavor. The satisfying joy it felt when he had Randy and his friends on the ropes the day prior. That mixed perfectly with the anger to create some intoxicating product that Jeff almost craved now. He fell asleep lying on his bed, thinking about that syrup, that thick, viscous feeling that seemed to work its way into the very fabric of his soul. He wanted it. Yet he knew it was destructive, and that nothing good could come from sampling it again. Several days passed, and tensions were high between Jeff and his parents. Without Leo around, there was nothing for him to do except sit in his room and play video games. Okay, so he is a gamer, I guess. He went outside, but didn't venture far from home. He knew if Randy and his goons showed up again, it would likely result in another fight. For a few days, that worked well, and Jeff believed he could get through this. However, his mother changed all of that on an early Saturday morning. Jeff was awoken suddenly by sharp sunlight striking his fence. He heard his mother humming, something that she rarely did. Even in his half-asleep state, he knew that humming was forced. Okay, weird. Jeff was doing it to wake him up. Oh, she was doing it to wake him up, sorry. And figured the other sunlight would get things there even faster. When she noticed Jeff's eyes cracked open, she sauntered over to his bed and began speaking in a tone that simply oozed false joviality. So I'm already assuming she's gonna be pretty annoying. Forced friends. At first, Jeff had refused. Could his mother be serious? Did she really expect him to go over and make friends with Randy? He was still in bed when she stopped her incessant humming long enough to tell him to get up and get dressed. Once he learned why, he told her no way in hell. However, his mother was a shrewd manipulator, and she'd know exactly what would get the job done. She promised Jeff that if he did this for her, if he went over and made it work with Randy, that Leo could come home the next day. She sent back Jeff right into the corner with that one. He had no choice but to agree. Okay, but then what is the point of sending Leo all the way to the auntie or whatever? What was the point of separating them then, exactly? You're just trying to make them suffer? Is it like a punishment of sorts? That's the only thing that would make sense to me. A short time later, Jeff and his mother were pulling into Randy's driveway. Randy's mother answered the door. "Hi, you must be Jeff," she greeted. Jeff smiled wanly and confirmed that was in fact who he was. Hello, I'm Sheila Wood. I swear, I cannot. This name sounds so weird. Sheila. It's not Sheila, it's Sheila. It sounds so weird. Like Shaelia. And not Shiela. Maybe, okay, whatever. Maybe it's just me being weird. Jeff's mother announced, barging past her son and extending a hand to Randy's mother. Sheila, so pleased to meet you. I'm Bridget Hayden. Sorry to hear that our boys had a little mishap the other day. You know how it is with teenagers though. Hormones going crazy and all. Randy never gets into fights, but he explained to me that Jeff and his brother are still new to the area, and haven't quite learned how we do things in Mandeville yet. Isn't that right, Jeff? Jeff couldn't resist a small jab. Yeah, sorry about that, Miss Hayden. Me and Lou had no idea that it was okay for your son and his friends to mess with our bikes without asking. Bridget, he gets that mouth from his father. Never knows when to shut up. How about you and I go and have some coffee and you can tell me all the great gossip around Mandeville while our boys get to know each other the right way. Randy's in his room, Jeff, upstairs. Second door to your left. I'm sure you hear the sound of his video games or something, Bridget stated, with very little humor in her voice. Thank you, ma'am, Jeff replied, and entered the house. Jeff knocked on Randy's door and heard him answer with, "Come in." Hey, so I guess you heard our parents want us to hang out, get to know each other, Jeff stated with little conviction. Yeah, that's my mom, alright. She doesn't like drama. Honestly, I think she worries too much. I mean, I'm cool if you're cool. Jeff sat down on the floor next to Randy and struck up a conversation. So turns out your dad is my dad's boss. He freaked out about the fight in the parking lot. He was worried he'd get fired or something. My dad is like everyone's boss. I fucking hate it. I think half the kids at my school talk to me because their parents are somehow connected to my dad's firm. Why do you hate it? Jeff asked. Because it's fake. The whole damn town is fake. You figure it out as you go, but trust me, everyone who lives here is just trying to pretend there's something else. My parents made me do all this shit, all the trophies and stuff, just so they can brag. That's it. Jeff smiled. I know how you feel. My dad had me in boxing class a year ago because some co-worker of his had a brother that worked at a place or something. As soon as that guy quit, though, I was out of the gym the next week. I wish it was that easy, Randy responded. I hate playing baseball, but my dad will have me out there again next summer and the summer afterwards. It's like he knows I hate it, but wants to make sure I'm out there with his stupid company name on the back of my jersey. Randy, why did you and your friends fuck with our bikes the other day? I told you, this town is fake and boring as shit. There is nothing to do here. We'll have to find stuff to do. I mean, there are only so many times you can hang out at the video store or ride the dirt paths in the woods. All the girls here are stuck up. All the stores close early. There's no mall, and the movie theater is across town. We were just bored, man. Sorry for it, I guess. It's cool, Jeff replied. I guess I'm sorry for it too. Things went too far. You mean the fight? Randy asked. That shit was actually cool. Those guys, Keith and Troy, they just leech on because of my dad. It's like I told you. I'm pretty sure the parents make them hang out with me. The afternoon went on, and Jeff soon forgot that this was a mandatory arrangement. He actually started to find himself liking Randy. Sure, the first encounter was a little sketchy, but he was coming around to the guy, finding that he wasn't so bad once his idiots friends were removed from the equation. I swear guys, I've had a friend back in high school that was exactly like that. I mean, we were friends shortly, but he was literally like that. He was bullying me and stuff. Like, he was very shitty to me. Then we had like an Erasmus project where we had a month in Seville, and me and him were picked to live in the same house, and I thought it was gonna be shit. But he was actually kinda cool, you know? When he went back to school, he kinda went back to his usual self, really. minus bullying me. He wouldn't bully me anymore. But he was still kind of an asshole. Exactly, like Randy here has been described. Like an asshole when he's with other people, but then when you're just with them, one-on-one, they're actually kind of okay. So these people do exist. About an hour later, things took a new turn. Jeff heard the twin pops of the two car doors shutting in near unison, and then the sound of an engine starting up. He dropped the game controller and peered out of Randy's bedroom window, just in time to see his mother and Randy's mother backing out of the driveway. "Our parents are leaving," Jess said. "About time. I figured my mom would eventually talk your mom into going shopping or getting coffee or something like that." Jeff heard Randy pause the game. "Hey Jeff, come downstairs. I want to show you some cool stuff." Okay, I don't like where this is going. I have a bad feeling about this. Randy invited and Jeff followed. Randy led Jeff out of the garage. It was hot in there, with the main door shut but well kept. Jeff observed stacks of magazines underneath a workbench, as well as tools and various other utility items stacked out. Standing in the small, closed-in garage, with the late summer heat lingering about, Jeff began to feel a bit uneasy. Despite the fact that he and Randy had seemed to bond over the last few hours, Jeff couldn't ignore a sense that things were different now that the adults were gone. "What did you want to show me?" Jeff asked. "Hold on, let me get to it," Randy replied, moving the magazines out to reveal a small red box. Jeff watched as Randy removed the box and opened it. "Check it out, my dad's flare gun," Randy announced and waved the red tubular gun about. "Whoa, be careful with that," Jeff shouted, more out of shock than real concern. "It's fine, dude, don't be a pussy. It's not even loaded," Randy said. However, Jeff watched as he fished out a flare from a back compartment. Randy then continued to fiddle with the gun, popping it open and loading it. "Now it's loaded," he announced. "My dad showed me how to use this last year when we went out boating. Sometimes I take it out back and shoot flares at the trees. But maybe this time I don't need a tree." The change in Randy's voice and demeanor was impossible to ignore. "Okay, well, cool gun. Let's get back in the house though. It's so hot out here. Plus I'm getting hungry. What do you have to eat?" However, as Jeff turned to walk through the small door leading back into the house, his path was suddenly blocked by two more familiar faces. Oh my god. This in a way is actually scaring me because I'm imagining being in that situation, all alone in this stranger's house. This guy pretended to be your friend, and now his two friends are there to 100% beat the fuck out of you, and he's loading a flare gun at you. Flare guns, I think, can kill if they hit you directly. I mean, it's not a bullet and stuff, but what if you catch on fire, you know? My god, this is in a garage. What if something in the garage catches on fire? What if the car... No, I guess the car is not there. I don't know, but still, what if the house catches on fire? This is so dumb. And Randy is so dumb as well. In the original, Randy got his ass kicked completely. In here, okay, they lost, yes, but they knew the cops took their side, so they still got the satisfaction. I don't see the getting even here. I guess it's just evil and stuff. "Where you going, Jeffy?" The fat... Oh, don't say Jeffy like that. The fat kid Troy blurted out as he and Keith stepped forward into the garage. "Took you two assholes long enough to get here. I've had to babysit this fucker all day." Well, it's F asterisk asterisk. Sorry, we've been saying pussy and shit all the time. Why are we censoring fucker? Is fucker like more vulgar than I know? Sorry if like it's offensive and stuff. Randy shouted, a wicked joy present in his words. Sorry. "Sorry, Randy. Keith here had to mow his front yard before his parents would let him come out," Troy said, a sheepish tone to his voice. "It's cool, we're here now," Keith said. "What the fuck is going on?" Jeff asked, staring at Randy. He noticed that he still had the flare gun in his hands. "I'll tell you what's going on, Jeff. You owe Keith and Troy an apology for what you did. You sucker punched them and then ran away. You didn't even have the balls to fight them fair. So now you're going to pay them what you owe." "I'm not going to fight you, okay? I'm done with that shit," Jeff replied as he glanced about the room for an exit. "If you're right about that, you're not going to fight. You're going to stand there and let my boys get their licks in. Then I get mine, and when that's done, you get the fuck out of my house. I'll tell my mom that you got sick and walked home, and after that, if you see us again, you better walk the other way. Are you a moron? Everyone's gonna see that you beat the shit out of him. You know, okay, sure, his parents don't care at all about him, but you don't know that, you know? His parents will probably be like, oh, you got beaten to an inch of your life? How could you do that to those poor guys? How could you do that to Randy? I bet you hurt him so much." That's what his parents are gonna be like, even though Randy's gonna be perfectly fine. I bet even if Jeff dies, his mother is gonna be like, "Oh, I'm so happy he died. He was such a brat. He was such a terrible child. He got what was coming to him. It's good that he died. Sorry everyone for bringing him in this town. I'm glad you killed him. You did the right thing." That's what the mothers... I know I'm exaggerating, but I swear this mother... these parents of Jeff really boiled my blood. "I'm not going to stand here and get hit by your friends. So just let me go home. How about that? I'll tell my mom that we're cool and everyone wins, okay?" Jeff asked. Randy then raised the flare gun towards Jeff. "No, you stay, pussy. You stay and take our licks. Take your licks." Jeff felt the sensation once more, that sick, rich, dark matter that swirled about inside of him. He could taste it now, and it was heaven. In his mind, he imagined himself diving into it, swimming in it, letting it swallow him whole. He looked around and the sensation only grew. Dude, honestly, if I'm in that situation, 1 against 3, completely trapped, and I know they're gonna beat the shit out of me, I'm gonna try and defend myself however I can. Because I know they're gonna do it anyway. So, you know, might as well go down with a fight. I don't even know if the guys are gonna kill me. That guy is literally pointing a flare gun at me. You know, he thinks he's not gonna kill me. But what if he shoots me in the head with a flare gun and I fucking die? Or I get blinded for life? So no, I'm defending myself in that situation. We saw Randy standing there holding the flare gun. He was limp in his hands, though, and the hammer had not been cocked back. Jeff knew that Randy had no intention of firing it. He looked over at Keith, skinny and pathetic, a kid born to follow, and Troy, fat and sweaty, breathing a bit heavy from his walkover. In the middle of it all was Jeff himself. He felt that pleasure begin to mix with rage, forming the perfect product. He tried to avoid sampling it. He knew that only regret could come from indulging. However, when it was placed so close, when the aroma and the promise of the sweet savory flavor was only inches away, Jeff found that he could no more stand against it. Jeff found that he could no more to stand against it than a ship in the ocean could stand against a typhoon. Okay, that's a weird way to phrase this stuff. He began to smile. "Why are you smiling at me? You queer for me or something? Oh, come on. This as well, come on." Okay, I guess they're teenagers. And it is in 2015. Sorry guys if you're listening to this and you find it offensive. I didn't write this. This guy wrote it and it was 2015. Everything was like that back then. Randy asked, a slight nervous tinge in his voice. "Am I smiling, Randy?" "I guess it's because I'm just having so much fun," Jeff announced, and suddenly lunged towards the unprepared kid holding the flare gun. Jeff struck Randy once in the nose. Randy's arm dropped, yet he kept holding off the gun. Jeff, without even needing to look, realized that Troy and Keith had actually taken a step back instead of advancing as they should have. He delivered another strong blow to Randy's jaw, causing the boy to drop to the floor. Jeff turned his attention to Troy and Keith, the two tough kids that had yet to make a move in his direction. Troy actually backed up and stepped backed up a step and stumbled over the stack of magazines that Randy had moved earlier. Jeff took this opportunity and stepped forward, once again introducing Troy's round belly to his fist. The boy tried to stay on his feet, but Jeff's punches combined with his stumble over the magazines made him fall back. He landed hard, striking his head on the concrete slab that was the garage's floor. Keith was trying to back away, however, Jeff stood between him and the only exit to the garage, since the carport door was closed. Jeff took 2 quick steps towards the skinny kid and felt the most intense joy at seeing Keith stagger backwards, knocking his back into the wall. That perfect blend of pleasure, control and rage had come together. Jeff felt as though he was floating above the world. Somewhere in his mind, he knew there would be hell to pay for this, but at that exact moment in time, he couldn't care less. He didn't care about Liu, he didn't care about being arrested, and he didn't care if his dad got fired. All he cared about, in that fraction of time, was hurting Keith. Keith tried to make a run for it, hoping to squeeze through the small gap between Jeff and the door. However, Jeff clipped him a hard right hand to his face, causing him to stagger back again. Jeff could see that his knees were buckling and took full advantage. He moved in, pinning Keith to the wall, and began to deliver blow after blow to the skinny kid's stomach. Keith's eyes became as large as saucers. Once satisfied, Jeff stepped back and watched in demonic glee as Keith slowly slid down the wall, gasping for air. I will add to this that it's kinda dumb, actually it's really dumb, from both parents of both children, to just leave two teenagers that had a fight like that, unsupervised like that. That is incredibly dumb. Randy got back to his feet, but seemed to have no idea what to do. "We done now, Randy? We good? Or do you and your friends need more?" Jeff mocked. "No more, we're cool." "How about you, assholes?" Jeff asked. "It was Randy's idea," Keith said weakly. "Yeah man, we didn't even want to," Troy agreed. The debate may have continued, but the sound of a returning car broke the tension. "Oh shit, my mom is back," Randy shouted, his voice crackling in a humorous way, seeing that the previous tough guy had all but shrunk back to a scared child. "Let's just say that we were all hanging out," Keith replied. "No, I mean the fucking flare gun. If she finds out that I mess with it, I'm screwed." "So put it back," Jeff suggested. That sensation of rage was fading again. He felt control returning. "Yeah, grab the magazines, please," Randy begged. Jeff found that he rather liked that tone, that begging, whip dog mentality. Jeff was paying no attention to Randy. He was down on the floor, calmly gathering the magazine. He didn't really care if Randy got punished. However, if his mother returned and found trouble, he feared that Leo may not be able to return home as promised. Everything else happened in a flash, both literally and figuratively. Randy, now in a panic over the trouble he'd be in if he was caught playing with the flare gun, had begun to sweat. As his hands frantically clawed over the gun, his thumbs pushed the hammer back unintentionally. He didn't even notice that it was now cocked. He'd been turning it over in his hands, trying to quickly disarm it. He heard the sound of keys in the front door and knew that he had only seconds now to hide it. Everything happened in slow motion. The guy slipped from Randy's sweaty hands as he attempted to rotate it once more. He saw it fall to the floor, seeming to float to the ground. Jeff, busy stacking the magazines, had only enough time to register Randy's short gasp. He turned to look in the boy's direction, just in time to see the bright red flare gun hit the floor. The gun discharged, launching a speeding ball of fire directly at Jeff, who felt a hot flash of heat and pain tear across the left side of his face. After the initial registry of agony, there was no more thinking. Jeff began to scream, clutching the left side of his face, rolling around on the floor. For a while, he forgot everything as he was plunged into that dark, rich syrup once more, the rage almost serving to dull the pain. When he finally did come to a stable level of alertness, he realized he was in a hospital room. Half of his face was bandaged. He knew that much. He wanted to open his eyes and speak, let his family know he was awake, but the drugs still had a firm hold. He was awake, but not quite yet functioning. He could hear several familiar voices though. Okay, we're almost to the end. These are the last 2 chapters. The birth of the killer. Is he going to be okay, doctor? Jeff's mother asked. Yes, ma'am, your son will be fine. However, he has a lengthy road to recovery and will need your support. The flare that struck his face caused 3rd-degree burns on his left side. How bad is the eye? Jeff's father asked. Hard to say at this point. I'll need to see an optometrist for further review, but the damage appears quite severe. And his face? What about his face? Jeff's mother asked, sounding deeply concerned. Well, we were able to clean and treat the injury in time, so there's no concern for infection or anything of that matter. We'll want him on antibiotics for a while, and he'll need to have the wound cleaned and dressed on a regular basis. But all in all, your son got very lucky. The damage could have been more severe. Doctor, his mother began again. What if there's permanent damage? What do we do about that? Are you a moron? It's a 3rd-degree burn, of course there's permanent damage. You kinda already get permanent damage from 1st-degree burns. Not a huge deal, not, very bad permanent damage, but if you get permanent damage from them, you're 100% gonna get permanent damage to a 3rd-degree burn. If anything, even nerve damage, that's for sure, right? As I said, an optometrist will have to examine the eye. I mean, okay, maybe the eye didn't get permanent, but the face is all fucked up now. Sheila Woods interrupted the man, sounding more agitated than before. You're not listening, not the eye, his face. What do we do to correct his face? She demanded to know. Well, ma'am, we have treated his face, like I said. There shouldn't be a risk of infection so long as you... She cut him off again. Not the infection, his appearance. What can we do for that? Miss Woods, that's hardly a concern at this point. Once he's healed and back on his feet, you can explore plastic surgery to repair some of the damage. But honestly, right now, we can't waste concern on how he looks. What's important is that your son is healthy. He can expect to be back in home in a few days. Maybe sooner. Jeff's dad spoke again. Okay, thank you, doctor. Can we have some time alone, please? My wife and I need to speak. Certainly, said the doctor replied. Liu, why don't you go down to the hospital cafeteria and get yourself a snack? Matt Woods suggested. Why do you call the father Matt Woods all the time? Just call him Matt. Either Jeff's father or Matt. Putting the last name is a bit weird, unless you imply that it's a stepfather. But no, it's Jeffrey Woods, it's the actual father, Jeffrey Woods and Liu Woods. And that's Matt Woods, their actual biological father, right? But I want to be here in case Jeff wakes up, Liu replied. Liu, they told us that Jeff is heavily medicated. They don't expect him to wake up anytime tonight. Go, and if he does come around, we'll have you paged, Matt replied. Jeff heard the door open and close as Liu exited. His parents both let out a long, shaky sigh. Jeff was starting to believe it was not a one of relief, but rather of stress. We're going to have to homeschool him now, Matt. That's just what it's going to be. We're going to have to keep him home, he heard his mother rant, her voice sounding frantic. What? I mean, he probably won't be able to start school right on time, but I doubt he'll miss a whole year, his father responded, trying to maintain a calmer voice. I'm not talking about that, Matt. I'm not worried about him missing a week or two of school. I mean his face. You heard what the doctor said. His face is going to be disfigured, Sheila argued back. We don't even know the full extent of the damage yet, Sheila. It could be minor, it could possibly heal, and you heard what the doctor said. Plastic surgery could be an option in time. In time? What kind of time? A year? 2 years? What about in the meantime? People are going to see him, and they're going to talk. Is that what you want? He's going to be a pariah. You think anyone is going to want to have him around their kids? Jeff was hearing all of this, just letting it soak in, slowly. As his mind absorbed the words, he felt that rage return. Sick, rich, dark, that syrup of raw, primal emotion. He He wanted to scream at his mother, to tell her to shut up, that he was the one lying here with half his face burned, blind in one eye, all thanks to her forcing him to go over to Randy's house. He wanted to ask her why she left, why she went off to go shopping or have her nails done or whatever it was that she did. He wanted to know why she'd leave him alone with a kid who just days before tried to jump him and his brother. He wanted to know how she could care more about his appearance than the fact he was lying in the hospital. However, there was still so much more that he wanted to know as well. He wanted to know how much more of his mother hated him. How much she saw him as a pariah now. He wanted to continue to swim in the thick pool of dark hatred that was starting to form from the rage and anger. That was a new one. Before it was anger, then it was anger mixed with pleasure. Now it was anger mixed with hatred. While he longed to be free of it, knowing that he most certainly preferred the false sense of love and concern he believed he dared from her before, he also wanted to test it out a bit more. He began to wonder how well this new recipe could blend with pleasure. How would it feel? Matt Woods began to speak again. I just can't believe he shot himself in the face with a flare gun. I always thought Jeff was more responsible than that. Yeah, there you go. There's no way the only kid that knew where the flare gun was shot Jeff. That is absolutely impossible. The only reasonable explanation to these parents is that Jeff shot himself. Oh my fucking god. These are literally the worst parents ever. Don't even get me started on that, Sheila replied. I couldn't believe it when Randy and his friends explained to the medics and police how it all happened. He was just trying to show Jeff around his house and wanted to show him the collection of magazines his dad kept in the garage. You know, boys, he was probably hoping that a couple of playboys will be in there or something. Then inside Jeff found the box containing the flare gun and wouldn't stop playing around with it. You should have heard those other boys, Matt. They told me they practically begged Jeff to put it down before he got hurt, but he just had to show off. I just don't know where we went wrong, Matt. I thought us moving out here to a nice quiet neighborhood would make everyone happy. Jeff, though, he just wants to fight us on everything. You morons. You don't know where you went wrong. You don't even know if you ever did anything right. You don't have any idea of who Jeff is. You probably only, it's like Jeff only came in your life 1 week ago and you don't know him at all. While all that came together in Jeff's mind, he continued to swim in a black ichor of hatred and rage. The morphine drip added a nice touch of euphoria. Jeff could almost see himself plunging into the syrupy waters of hatred and emerging changed. Each dip brought him so much twisted pleasure. That was when he finally understood. He could sample that pleasure now, not because he was enjoying what was happening, but because he knew he could enjoy what was to come. Just as the doctor predicted, Jeff was scheduled to go home a few days later. During his time at the hospital, he never asked to see his face. It wasn't until the last day that he finally requested a mirror. The nurse had come in to change his bandages, as was the routine. She was a pleasant woman. She spoke to him, asked him how he was doing. He enjoyed her visits, so on the final day when she arrived to dress his face, he asked to see himself. Are you sure, sweetheart? Would you like me to call your parents first? She asked. No, thank you, Jeff replied. I think I want to see for myself first, without them standing over me. I understand, she replied honestly, without a hint of pretension. Once the bandages were off, she handed him a small hand mirror. Would you like me to step out of the room? She asked. Jeff ignored her and looked at himself, taking stock of the damage. Sure enough, his face was a mess. The entire left side, at least. The first struck him traveling upwards, burning a scar into his left cheek that extended to his eyes. At first glance, it almost looked like he was smiling on that side. The scar was still bright red, with burnt tissue spread out on either side. Once it arrived at his eye, the news did not get any better. His eye was white, just a lifeless bulb, plugged into his face. He closed his right eye and found that he could see nothing from the left at all. The scar continued up to the left side of his forehead. The damage was less severe there. However, the hair on the left side of his head had been burned off, leaving a few strands to stick up here and there. "Sorry, sweetie, but I have to put clean bandages on," she told him. He smiled. "It's okay. There'll be plenty of time for me to admire myself later." And now we get to the final chapter. Go to sleep. There was no joy from his parents on the ride home or upon arrival. They spoke very little, and there was a tension in the car that simply wouldn't fade out. As for Leo, he was thrilled that his brother was okay, but didn't know what to say concerning the damage to his face. So after asking a few questions about the accident and the recovery, he fell silent as well. They walked into their home at dusk, and Leo asked about dinner. He suggested they let Jeff pick a place to celebrate his return home. "Just go to sleep, both of you boys, go to sleep," Sheila remarked. She and her husband both retreated to their bedrooms as well, to argue or feel sorry for themselves, who knew. Jeff and Leo didn't speak much that night. Jeff spent most of the evening staring at himself in the mirror. He kept pulling back the bandages and looking at the scars. Leo wanted to see them too, but felt that it might be imprudent to ask. "I'm glad you're home safe, Jeff. I really missed you, and I'm glad you're okay," Leo said to Jeff as he stared at himself. "I'm not okay, Leo, and neither are you. None of us are, really. There's a sickness here. The only difference is that now it shows on the outside as well," Jeff replied, his voice flat. As flat as one from an answering machine. Okay, I'll correct myself then. "What are you talking about?" Leo asked. "One day you'll see it too. This is what happens. This is what happens when it all falls down," Jeff said, still peeking out from behind his bandages. "Jeff, I don't know what you're trying to say," Leo responded. Jeff didn't reply though. After several moments, Leo left him alone, going down into his parents' bedroom and knocking on the door. "What is it?" The voice of his mother asked. "Mom, I think Jeff is acting weird. You might want to come and talk to him." "Go away, Leo, leave your mother alone," his father's voice answered. Leo, being young, had no other ideas, so he returned to his own bedroom. He didn't know that those would be the last words he'd ever hear his parents speak to him. That night, Sheila and Matt Woods awoke together. Both being light sleepers, it took little to bring them out of slumber. The sudden removal of their blanket, as it was snatched from the bed, did the trick just fine. They awoke to see a small light coming from the half bath that was situated in the master bedroom. The door was cracked only slightly, and the light source was weak. They could still make out a human shape standing over their bed. What's going on?" Sheila grumbled. As their vision came into focus, they realized their son was standing before them. Matt reached over and flipped on the lamp next to the bed. Jeff was standing there, his bandages off, his disfigured face beaming down on them. A long kitchen knife was clutched in the right hand. "What are you doing, son?" Matt asked, his mind still trying to shake off the cobwebs of sleep. He's got a knife!" Sheila screamed, grabbing at her husband's arm. Matt kept his composure though. "Sheila, it's probably the painkillers. He's just disoriented. Relax, for Christ's sake." "Are you insane? Your kid is standing right there like some sort of ghost, looking at you sleep with a knife in his hands, and you're like, it's just the pain. Are you insane? And you're trying to get killed. Like, no survival instinct at all." Jeff tilted his head to one side, still not speaking. He stared hard at his father, slowly bringing the knife up, ensuring that he saw it well. "Son, what are you doing?" Matt asked. "Scaring you," Jeff replied, with no emotion in his voice. "Matt, do something," Sheila pleaded. "Okay, son, I realize you've been through a lot, but you need to go back to bed. I'm going to call the doctor in the morning and..." Jeff moved quickly across to his father's side of the bed, his head swaying, alternating between a normal-looking young man and the deformed ghoul that had been lurking in the shadows. "Son, you scared me. Isn't that what you wanted?" Matt asked, adjusting to the middle of the bed to put the distance between himself and his son. "Good. Now I can start hunting you," Jeff spoke again, with no emotion. His father had time to utter a single syllable, most likely to ask another question, to try and reason with his son. Jeff, however, gave him time to do no more than that. He lunged into the bed and drove with the knife into his father's stomach. Matt attempted to fend him off, but the wound to his midsection rendered him into shock, and his arms fell to his sides. Jeff could hear his mother screaming, but paid no mind. He wanted to finish off his father first. Removing the knife, Jeff stabbed down into the man's stomach 3 more times, quickly. His father gasped and coughed up blood, his body jerking and twitching each time the knife found its mark. After the 3rd time, Matt Woods lay still. Sheila had backed up against the headboard of the bed. She wanted to climb down and make a run for it, but she'd balled herself up between the headboard and the end table. In her frantic state of terror and confusion, she couldn't figure out how to do something as simple as dismount a bed. "Jeff, why? Why are you doing this to us?" she asked feebly. "Randy started it. You must have known that, but you ignored it. Leo had a busted lip. You must have seen that, but you ignored it. I was shot in the face with a flare gun, but you believed Randy. Why? So you could fit in?" Jeff asked in a low, almost growling voice. Okay, I messed it up again, I guess. But I do like this portrayal of mine. He's showed us being emotionless, so I'm gonna keep going emotionless. "No, baby, I believed you. It was just your father's job, and we're new here, and... Oh God. Jeff, please." His mother begged. "Tell me about homeschool, Mom. Tell me all about how you don't want to send me out in public because of my face. Tell me how none of the other kids will want to be my friends, and how none of their parents will want to be yours. Tell me about that, Mom. Tell me how nice it's going to be you homeschooling me." "Jeff, please, I was just stressed. I was worried about you. That's all. Please, I love you." "Mom, I think you should take your own advice. You know what you told Leo when he got home tonight. He wanted to do something nice to welcome me home. Do you remember what you told us to do instead?" Jeff asked, as he now crawled over, cornering his mother on the bed. "What did I say?" she asked, the question coming out barely a whisper. "Go to sleep," Jeff snarled, and drove the knife into his mother's chest. He stabbed her over and over again, and as he did, he finally found the perfect recipe. That heavily blend rage, hate, and pleasure all mixed into one perfect formula, and for a while Jeff became lost in it all. Jeff opened his brother's bedroom door, not surprised to find him asleep. He had dozed off with his headphones in, so he had slept through all the shouting. That was fine with Jeff. It was easier for Leo not to have heard all that. Jeff sat down on his brother's bed and nudged him slightly. It took a moment, but Leo finally opened his eyes and looked up. Jeff removed his earphones for him. "You're free now, Leo," he spoke softly. "Jeff, what are you talking about?" Leo mumbled, still half asleep. "You'll see in the morning. I just wanted to let you know I love you. You've been my best friend, remember that, okay?" "Thanks, I love you too. Now let me go back to sleep," Leo replied, already dozing off again. Jeff smiled and stood up. As he left the room, he looked back at his sleeping brother one last time, before vanishing into the night. Okay, and that was Jeff the Killer, 2018. By, what was the name of the author again? It was at the beginning, K. Banning Kellum. Supposedly they did this contest, and he was the winner of the contest. Now, I have read in the comments of this, creepypasta wiki page in the comments, and I don't know how truthful this is, so this is all alleged, I guess. But this guy, La Fonda Pasta, he's writing that, it's writing this. So, from what I understand, Kay Banning Callum was the main host of the contest. The judges were chosen by him, and they gave his the okay, and they gave his story, the okay over all of the other submissions. Seriously. So, I don't know, guys. There's a possibility that this whole contest was rigged. I mean, if a guy, submitting his own story also chooses all the judges, he's gonna choose judges that might vote for his story. I don't know, it seems a bit rigged. But this is all alleged. I don't know if any of this is true. I haven't researched into this. I'm just telling you what seems to be here, apparently. So take the whole story with a pinch of salt, okay? Again, I didn't research this. I just read this for you. And I will say that it is an improvement. The reason I'm telling you, take this alleged thing with a pinch of salt. Might be true, might be false, but I see some credibility. The story is an improvement, but it kinda loses the spirit of the original. And I'm not just talking about, the original was so bad, it was funny, and I was laughing a bit about, at it all the time, so that's why it's different. No, I'm not talking about that. Okay, so first of all, it does seem a bit long. It could go a bit faster, to be honest. I will say that the quote-unquote feeling is described a lot better, but it's described too many times, I think. Like, it's described very in detail the first time, then the second time, the third, fourth, fifth, and so on. You could have described it in a lot of detail, maybe in the first chapter it appears, and then again 3 chapters after or something. Don't describe it with such detail all the time, because it becomes a bit boring. This syrupy thingy, the feeling and stuff, becomes a bit annoying. But I do enjoy that it is a much better description of his mental state. Okay, we get a much better idea. So on that front, good improvement. It also seems a bit more natural. Now it feels more like this was always inside of him. Like, it just doesn't feel as ridiculous, so you're more prone to believing it. That this was always something he was predisposed to, maybe. And his descent into this madness feels more gradual as well. And he also doesn't go, I'm the Joker baby, doesn't go like the classic stereotype of the crazy guy. Especially that part where, he was emotionless for a few times, rather than giggly and going, mommy, like that. Okay, mommy. That's how he spoke in the previous one. And there was literally no reason. So this guy is regressing to a childlike, personality because he's crazy like that. What? That doesn't make any sense. If he kind of would maybe have if he has childhood trauma, but he's 13 and he's having, current moment trauma, not childhood trauma. And again, I'm not an expert, but it explains a lot better how his parents are. Even in the first one, we get the feeling that his parents are a bit of assholes, but we get more of a feeling that they're dumb. Well, here we get a much bigger feeling that they just don't care. They're all about their image and success and stuff, and they don't care about Jeff and Leo. I will say the part where Leo gets sent to his auntie or whatever, gets sent away, that's kind of dumb. It feels like the story forcibly trying to follow the same steps as the original. In the original, he goes to jail and that's him being sent away. Here, he has to be sent away some other way. That kind of seems a bit forced. maybe, and my theory is that it's a way for the parents to punish both of them. But then you could have just put a thought from Jeff. Maybe Jeff going, oh, I'm sure this is just them finding a way to punish us. Jeff thought to himself. And that would at least would have confirmed, my feeling about this. This is the impression I'm getting. I feel like the author could have confirmed it better. And now we'll go to the things I don't like. Oh, another thing I like better. The setting is a lot more deeper. It's a lot deeper. We get much more of a better impression of the place they are in, where the story is happening. But yeah, I will go to the negatives. First of all, it's supposed, the whole point of the first story was to get to the point, to get Jeff to look like the image. It was supposed to, at the end of it, Jeff was supposed to look like he does in the original picture. Now, you can make it look a bit, different, that's okay. But you didn't get his whole skin getting bleached thing, Now, I'm not even sure if bleach really works that way, but I don't know. Now it's just, a burn survivor victim, which is still bad, it can still be scary and still adds a lot to his trauma. But it kinda doesn't get to that famous, white guy picture, Now another problem I find with this story is the 3 bullies don't get murdered. That seems kinda dumb. It just seems like Jeff approaches this through the, through the point of view of society is sick. It's okay, it's not this bully's fault. I just now realizing that society is sick. Okay. But then, if you're gonna be like, it's not the bully's fault, so I'm not gonna kill them. Why are you being like, it's all my parents' fault, I'm gonna kill my parents? No, I don't know, it doesn't make sense. I get that, he 100% hates his parents a lot more because of how his parents are treating him, but still, I don't know. I think, especially to follow the original story better, it would have made more sense for him to also kill the 3 bullies in these stories too, Then, how his whole injury, the whole injury thing happens, that's besides the point. That, the injury itself can happen different ways. It doesn't have to be that the bullets with guns and knives were trying to attack him, because that also made less sense. I will give this story this great positive point. It makes a lot more sense. You feel more immersed because it makes more sense. Jeff doesn't just randomly break a guy's wrist or punch his heart out like that. No. He doesn't get close to that level of damage with just his bare hands. He gets to a good level, like a big level of damage, but because he did boxing for 1 year, so he has some basics that the kids are gonna lack. So at least it makes sense for him to win the fight without him having superhuman strength, Also, the kids don't have knives and guns. That just sounded so unrealistic, especially in this posh neighborhood, I would have liked if he became friends with Randy. Again, this wouldn't have followed the story. But, since we're taking departures, let's experiment a little bit more, I guess. But that's fine too in the end. That's just personal preference, I guess. But yeah, like, you did this whole thing, made it more realistic. But you still could have gotten him to kill the bullies. That would have made a lot of sense. But another big positive point, and if you remember, I don't know if you've seen the previous episode, I criticized this. In the previous episode, he kills his brother too. Why? Why the fuck would you do that? But in this remake, he doesn't. Of course he doesn't. Because he loves his brother. His brother is his best friend, exactly like he says at the end of the story. He loves his brother. And in his own twisted mind, now he killed the parents who, he saw as abusive to his brother. But then again, one more reason to kill the bullies as well, right? I'm just saying, this guy is... I mean, it's Jeff the Killer. It's got killer in the name. He kills people, okay? And the story makes it clear that he went insane and wants revenge and enjoys inflicting pain. In fact, it was, you know, described very well all the time. This feeling, the pleasure, the thick syrup of rage and hatred and stuff. He loves inflicting pain. He loves killing people. It's just, you know, sociopathic like that. I do feel like, yeah, probably this story implies more that Jeff was born, you know, destined to be like this, I guess. Like, is in his genetics, I guess. How, you know, the same way some people can be predisposed to some mental health conditions. Some people can be predisposed to getting addicted to stuff, or being depressed, or having schizophrenia, for example. So, you know, it's an interesting story. It's an improvement. It's definitely an improvement. It's a better story. But I will still rather read the original. It was a lot more fun. Now, this was scarier for sure. It was a lot scarier than the original. But it was still not that scary. It didn't give me any, you know, creepy feelings or anything. Maybe it's because, you know, it's narrated, you know, the protagonist, it's the killer itself. The evil guy, the monster, the entity, it's the protagonist himself. Maybe that's why it's not as scary. I did find it scary when he was trapped in the garage a bit, because I was imagining myself being there. And the ending is definitely a lot better. I also like that the newspaper article at the beginning, that was removed. Yeah, good choice. I mean, first of all, I don't think it was that important. And second of all, like I was saying in the previous episode, I thought it was trying to set up some sort of loop where maybe the crazy killer dies and so there's a new crazy killer. Or maybe it was like Jeff all along. It was, and the story happens before the newspaper article. Maybe. But I don't feel like it was that clear in the story, or maybe it's just me being numb, not noticing it, I don't know. I really don't feel like it was that clear. And this story, it feels like it wouldn't have used it anyway. It clearly doesn't want to use it, so they removed it. Good job! And that was good. There was no reason to put it there if it wasn't gonna be used, so I praise this as well. So yeah, overall, like, as a serious story, yeah, this is an improvement. If we wanted to take the story seriously, this is an improved version. But as overall enjoyment, not gonna lie, the first story was it was a lot funnier just because it was bad. I had a better time reading it. But yeah, this story is better. I will say though, for the reasons I said previously, you know, changes this, changes that, doesn't even kill the bullies, he doesn't even get bleach white skin. It kinda feels like this story loses that, you know, that spirit a bit, you know? And it's a bit overly long, maybe. It just doesn't feel like it keeps the same spirit. I get it that it's a remake, but, you know, it changes the story too much. And again, and I think that's why it's called Jeff the Killer 2015 and not Jeff the Killer Remake. This may as well be a new Jeff the Killer story, I guess. Like a completely different retelling. Which I enjoyed, but personally, I would have just tried to, you know, fix... And I know it was hard to fix the original story, but I would have tried to fix the mistakes, you know, correct the grammar, put more interesting words, explain things better, make the characters a little deeper, all of that. I would have tried to do that. This story is too different. And like we were saying before, okay, this is the winner, but it seems there's some controversy, so I don't really know. Look, maybe in the future, maybe I will read the second entry, you know, like I seen the silver winner, you know, this is the contest winner, okay, number 1. Maybe I'll read the number 2 guy, you know, Sirius Nightshade, or maybe we'll read Jade Zoidberg's entry, who was the 3rd place. Maybe. There is also Jane the Killer, which, I mean, it's just the female version, but seems there's a whole story in the creepypasta wiki about that. So maybe the story will also be different. I don't know. But that's gonna be much further in the future. Last thing I wanna say, I don't know if I commented on it, I don't think so. The scene where he kills his parents, now that is a lot better. It's a lot more descriptive. You can see his parents, they don't break character, they still keep acting like assholes, like they've been doing all the, the story. They keep not believing their eyes, literally like horses with their eyes blinded. Horses have those masks to not let them see forward, whatever. I don't know what they're called in English. But yeah, the parents keep being dumb, and he kills them, but the exchange, there's some words exchanged. He gets to explain why he's doing it. He gets to say what he wants to say, and not just stab them like that, nothing said, which I guess will be fine as well. But these are not random people you're killing, these are your parents. You have a very deep relationship with them, good or bad, you have a deep relationship, very strong relationship and feelings about them. But yeah, killing scene much better than the last one. And I also liked how it also basically ends with go to sleep, but this time it's set differently, because in the first one he goes go to sleep and basically kills his brother, but in this one he just tells him to go to sleep, and then disappears. But like, he doesn't kill his brother, obviously. Yeah, now I'm starting to wonder, he did kill his brother in the first story, right? I feel like he did kill his brother. I don't think he just went go to sleep. I think he did kill him. In any case, that's it for this episode. You must have noticed it's ages longer. It's my longest episode ever, but this was a long story, and I am tired. I'm hoping next time we'll get something shorter. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this Jeff the Killer remake. It's a better story, but it wasn't as fun as the past episode. And if you haven't watched the past episode, please go watch it. That was a lot more fun. It was I mean, I know you probably went here looking for a horror story anyway, but trust me, it's worth it. It's worth it. I was laughing all the time. Alright, well, now time to say goodbye. I hope you enjoyed the story again. If you have anything to say about it, please tell me in the comments. Tell me what you think of the story. Tell me if I got, if I should know anything about the background, about these allegations and stuff. Tell me anything that's relative. And, well, yeah, subscribe for more content if you want to see more, well, hopefully creepy stories, but maybe some funny stories as well. It could be funny stories as well. And I will see you in the next episode.